on notes payable. Notes are different from bonds because notes payable are generally owed to one creditor or a bank, where bonds are owed to a whole bunch of different people. When we have a typical mortgage note, mortgage being a note that's secured by some sort of property like your house, there'll typically be a set payment amount, and that payment is made up of principal, and some of that payment is interest each time. And our job is to sort out how much is each. So I'm going to go to my favorite 2-year $100,000 note payable. This will be similar to the bonds we've been doing. It has 6% interest, and we have to make semi-annual payments of $26,902.70. So the first step in doing any of the long-term notes payable is to really set up the schedule. And where this is a 2-year note, we can do the whole thing right out. We'll have, let's see, we'll start off with the principal balance. Sorry to run back and forth here, of $100,000. Okay, so that's our starting point. And then we'll put in each of our payments. So we've got basically 2 payments each year, and I said the amount was $26,902.70. So you can say, okay, our payment's $26,902.70, and this is really lends itself well to Excel. And my notes are on Excel, so you can work with these after I'm done kind of explaining what happens. Okay, so we put down our 4 payments that we're going to make on this note. And then we have to figure how much of this first payment is interest and how much is principal. Well, we have 6% annual interest, but we're making 2 payments a year. So the interest expense is going to be 6%, but divided by 2, so we could just divide by 3% because there's 2 payments each year. So we would go take the principal balance, multiply it times 3%, so our first interest portion is $3,000. That's $100,000 times the 3% interest for half a year. Then, how much did we pay off of the principal? Well, this was our total payment. Of that payment, $3,000 was interest, which means that we must have reduced the principal by $23,902.70. Okay? For this, I am going to be having to go back and forth. Okay. So now, what's our new principal balance? Well, it was 100, and we just paid off this amount, and so if we subtract those out, the principal we have left to pay is $76,097.30. Okay, so that's our first payment. When we go to do the journal entry for that, I'm going to let you look at the notes. You can see that we would have the interest expense debited for $3,000. We would also have the mortgage payable debited for the amount we paid off of that, and then the credit would be to cash for the full amount of the payment. Okay, so let's do the next one. We have to figure out how much of this second payment is interest. Our new balance is $76,097.30, so we do that times 3%, and so we get $2,282.92 as interest, and that's the principal balance of $76,097 times the 3% interest for half a year. Okay, so our payment was this amount. This amount of that payment was interest. The rest must be principal. So this minus the amount that was interest gives us principal reduction of $24,619.78. Okay, new principal balance. You can kind of see where this is going. We had this amount, we just paid off that amount, so the amount remaining is $51,477.52. Okay, if you're setting this up on Excel, you can just set up formulas so that you can go plus the principal balance times 0.03, and it will just give you that amount. Here, you can set it up to go, you want this square to equal this one minus this one, and you get that. And then you set this one up so that it's the previous balance minus this gives you that. And then once you get those three set up, you can copy and paste and it will fill out the rest of the schedule for you. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to look at how those journal entries would be done. I want to ask you to look at the next page of notes, which has a $100,000 note payable, 6% interest due in 10 years with monthly payments. And so this is set up exactly the same way as what I just set up here. And what I would like you to do with that is to go down to the bottom of, well, before you do that, see if you can figure out on a 10-year mortgage note, how much interest do you think you would actually be paying over the life of that loan? Once you think about that a little bit, then go and just total that column, the interest expense column, and you'll see how much of that note is going to be, how much you're going to be paying in interest on a $100,000 note. The other thing where these schedules come in very handy, and this really isn't quite the same as what I can do in the classroom because I can't demonstrate the Excel, but you can take the schedule, and by changing the payment, you'd be looking at the payment of $1,110.20. You could change the payment and say, well, what if I could pay an extra $200 a month? And you could do that for the first one and then copy and paste it to all the rest. And then you can see how much sooner the mortgage would be paid off. And you can see how much interest savings there would be from just making a little bit of extra payment each month. The other thing is, if you have lump sum payments, you could say, yeah, well, at the end of year 2, maybe I get a lump sum payment of $5,000. If I just put all of that towards the mortgage instead of going to the Bahamas or something, how much does that save me over the life of the loan? Mortgages work against you, and so what you want to do is, once you get them paid off, it's as though you have a raise of, in this case it would be, over $1,000 a month, and you can see how sweet that is. Anyway, I would encourage you to sort of get familiar with how the schedule works, because this is something that can save you a lot of money if you apply it to your own personal finance. Okay, so what you need to know is how to set up a schedule like this. On an exam, you'd just be asked to do the first 2 interest payments, and you have to be able to set up this schedule and then do the journal entries for both of them, as well as to bring the note on the books to begin with.